All right, everybody, welcome back. Inside the lounge here. It's been a couple weeks. I wanted to give you guys kind of a little break. Been a little busy out here, but nonetheless, just wanted to kind of get back at it after an exciting week 10. Things are really coming down to the wire. We'll dive into the numbers here coming up soon. One of the things I wanted to point out, I was just talking to Drew, owner of Watson's Bath and Spa, about this. Kind of an interesting little tidbit. After week 10, every single team in the league has at least 3 wins. Every single team in the league has at least 3 losses. No one has been eliminated yet, and no one has locked in a playoff spot. So with 4 weeks to go in the regular season, that's pretty darn good that everybody's still in it, and it's still anybody's game. So let's kind of get into the results here, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned. We're back here. We're going to start breaking down the numbers, the games from last week, but a couple things I wanted to talk about beforehand. I don't know if you've been on the website and looked at the playoff bracket as it stands now. I tend to kind of pop on there each week and just see who's seated where, and it's kind of how I keep tabs of if the league is doing things properly. And this week it's just not where it needs to be. So obviously I sent it in the text message beforehand. And try to break this down real simply. It's kind of the way the NFL works. The first 3 seeds are division winners. We only have 3 divisions, so that's the first 3 seeds. And then from there, we try to, how we break ties down in those divisions is what we need to think about to get the division winners. So the division winners, we do our breakdown based off obviously the overall record first. Then I believe it goes to head-to-head. So in your division, you play each opponent twice. If you split, it's going to immediately go to the third tiebreaker, which is your division record. And then finally, if your division records are the same, it goes to total points scored. So that's kind of one of those things where the website's not really doing it properly. So as I stated beforehand, Vanessa should actually be the 1 seed TLB committee, followed by Short Bus Driver, then followed by Watson's Bath and Spa. And the way that works is Vanessa has the same record, but she's beaten both of those teams head to head. If she had lost to either one of them, then it's going to go into a different kind of a 3-way tiebreaker, which is going to go to get to points real quick when you're talking about teams that are not in the same division. So since she beat both of them heads up, that locks her into the 1 seed, and then you figure out how to break the tie between 2 and 3, which is Jason and Drew, also at 7 and 3, and Jason gets the nod there because he beat Drew straight up. So that's pretty simply put how we got how I came up with the 1, 2, 3 seeds there. And then as we look, if you kind of look in the divisions, you'll see that Braden or Coffee Creamers is also 7 and 3. So how did we get that tiebreaker where Jason's the 1 seed in our division and Braden's the 2 seed? Jason and I talked about it earlier, and he kind of dove into the numbers that I've not been able to fact check yet, but I believe it's something along the lines of Jason just has a better division record, and Braden, I don't know that I think Jason just had the better division record. And they haven't played each other yet. So anyway, it's going to work itself out, but just know that I may have to go in there and manually do those. So just a quick heads up. So again, we talked about how to break these ties and how tight the league is overall, how tight divisions are. So we're all separated by 4 games, so anything could happen. Obviously, we see if you've been paying attention to other games, Big Fish, Big Dan O is on a 4-game winning streak, the longest win streak in the league right now. One of the longer ones all season, with the exception of Vanessa's 6-game winning streak to start it out. But anyway, we're going to start at the top here and just go down one by one to do the quick score recaps, and then we'll break into division standings. So first up, we have the Warden, 149 winner over Don, 102. So the Warden takes the win there. Caddy Waddy versus Johnson. Caddy Waddy pulls that one out 116 to 107. Good win, Isaac. Big Fish over Beats by Ray. 142 to 136, so really close barn burner there. Went down to Monday night, so great win by Dan. I thought he was out. I didn't realize until the next morning, so great job coming back for that win. Unfortunately, I wasn't nearly as lucky. And then we're moving down the line here. We got Watson's Bath and Spa. He was I think number 1 seed going into that week, and takes the big L to Gordon Fisherman in a low-scoring affair. Gordon Fisherman's 107 to Watson's 86. So Drew was the only team to not break 100 this week, unfortunately for him. But it kind of worked out for everybody with Drew going down, and then Braden, which we'll talk about his score in just a second. The 2 top teams kind of came back to the league a little bit, so nobody lost ground. So speaking of coffee creamers, he was paired up with the TOB committee. She's been back on her winning ways here lately with a 146 to 135 win, so another tight game. These games are getting real close and real exciting. Then you got me kind of bringing up the rear. I just can't seem to put it together. It's one thing after another, and then kind of had my full slate of running backs this week and failed me. So Motorboaters lost 105 to 151 over the short bus driver. So stick around. We'll dive deeper into these numbers. All right, we're back. We're going to start with the Warden over Don. The Warden, a big winner, 149 to 102, like we said earlier. And I kind of looked over these scores, and not gonna lie, I did it pretty quickly today just because I knew there's some other things I needed to talk about, so I figured I would keep the game stats kind of down to a minimum. Everybody pretty much knows what happened in their game, but just some numbers that stuck out to me. Scott was double digits across the board, with the exception of his defense. So the defense was the only position to score single digits. So I mean, that's impressive in itself. And 31 from Brian Robinson, who's now the number 5 running back in fantasy, which is probably something a lot of people don't realize. But he's been putting up big numbers pretty much all year. And we're going to talk about somebody else from that team. That Washington team in general has some big scorers this year, and it's a little bit surprising. And then the only hang-up for Scotty this week was only 11 points from his starting wide receivers. You kind of expect more from that, but you know, he had a big win, he had a good week, so just take it and move on. When we look over at Don's 102, this was CMC had 22 points off of no touchdown, so a 16-game touchdown streak comes to an end, and 17 points from his defense, which was, you feel like when you're putting up those numbers right there, you think you're kind of going to be in a game, but then you look up and down the rest of his roster, and it was pretty much just Donnie type stuff, just not much happening. So there's not a whole lot to say there. Just tough loss, man. I know it knocks Donnie down to 3-7. I feel like you're going to need 7 wins to get into the playoffs, and your teams with 7 losses means you got to win out. So good luck, Don. Big win, Scott. Moved you tied for 3rd in our division. So right where you want to be as the season's rolling near end. Looking good in all phases. Congrats, buddy. Moving on to the next game, it was Caddy Waddy versus Johnson. Caddy Waddy 116 winner to Johnson's 107. Caddy, not a high-scoring game again. He had 21 from Najee Harris, which is a bonus. Najee's been up and down all year, and I know Dan got 22 out of Jalen Warren, I believe it was. So you've got 2 running backs from the same team putting up 20-plus points. That's promising. Because a lot of people thought Najee was just on his way out. Jamar Chase back to normal. I was concerned. I watched the not hit, but the way he went to the ground in the week before and landed directly on his back. Didn't think he was going to be available for this game, but man, these athletes are tough, and they know how to take care of their body, and he got 27 points coming off that injury, so good job from him. But after that, it was 5 points from his QB, 1 point from his defense. He did have 5 guys with 14-plus points. But it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to win this game. Mark thought he was going to come back. He had 27 out of Herbert. He had no one else on over 14, though. I know he was looking at Monday night like he might be able to mount a comeback with James Cook, and James Cook got James Cook numbers, which is 14. That's pretty much his ceiling this year. The Bills are in complete just fuckery. I don't know what else to call it. But yeah, so that means Johnson got 22 combined from his starting running backs. And then, with no one else going over 14, it's tough to put up points. He broke 100. He was excited about that, and that's pretty much where it stopped. Unfortunately for him, he had a 30 spot and a 25 on his bench that either move would have won him the game. But it's the woulda, coulda, shouldas we can do. I don't beat people up on this. I make these mistakes all the time. It's cost me 2 wins in a row, which before this I just got beat this week. So nice win, Caddy. Moving on. We're back. Big fish, big winner, 4 in a row. 142 over the Beats by Rays, 136. Again, I went into Monday night, thought Dan was out. Didn't even look back at his score. Wasn't until I got to work Tuesday morning, where Team Johnson, owner Mark Johnson, kind of let me know that Dan did complete the comeback. And I guess it happened on a lot of fourth quarter scoring from Javonte Williams, but much needed win. I was afraid his win streak was over. But keeping himself at that 6th loss and not getting the 7th loss like I talked about earlier, I feel like you're going to need 7 wins. That means 7 losses maximum, unless you're one of these teams with a tie. But I do feel like he needs 7 wins, and Dan's definitely positioned himself right where he needs to be. He got 3 20-point guys. He got 31 from his tight end, TJ Hawkinson, and then that big 24 points from Javonte Williams that brought him back. And that helped kind of compensate from 10 points combined from, I believe, 10 points combined from his QB and his number 1 running back. So I forget who his QB was for this game, but Derrick Henry being the number 1 running back. And I know he was without Jalen Hurts, so he was on backup mode for the quarterback, but it didn't work out for him but he was still able to kind of pull back the win. 142 points nonetheless, so great job. As we look over at Beats and Tim, when you got 41 from Keenan Allen, 24 from George Kittle, like these are numbers you hope they hit on the same week, because they're kind of helter-skelter. They happen, but they don't happen often enough to be hitting with other people's. And then, a lot of people was fearing that, was David Montgomery going to come back and get a lion's share of the carry in Detroit? No pun intended. But he did. He got 23 points. The real sucky thing for Tim was Trevor Lawrence's 1 point and just getting stifled by the San Francisco 49ers defense. Only 1 point from J.J. Smith-Schuster, which if you're starting J.J., unfortunately you're in trouble there. You knew it going into it. I'm sure you weren't comfortable starting him. It's just probably bye weeks. But, you had 26 on your bench from quarterback Sam Howell. And that definitely would have won you the game. You lost by 6 points. You got 1 from your quarterback. It's easy for me to say that, but you need to look a little more into the numbers. Sam Howell is number 1 or 2 in the entire NFL in passing yards. He is number 6 in fantasy scoring. All right? And I believe he's top 5 in touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence, I believe, is the 17th ranked quarterback in fantasy. So I know you're starting Lawrence with the ceiling and the expectations of what they could be, but you got a guy sitting on your bench who's putting out numbers that he's just not getting credit for. And I think you need to give a good look at Sam Howell. So great win, Dano. Keep it rolling, man. I'm rooting for you. Tim, tough loss, dude. I know, you're coming off a loss. You're still second in your division. You're still in a playoff spot, so you got to feel good about that. Just right the ship, dude, and feel like you're going to be in the playoffs, man. Congrats, Dan. Next game was Watson's Bath and Spa versus the Gorton Fishermen, Battle of the Brothers. This was won by Logan, the older brother, putting the smackdown on Drew, 107-86. Drew just didn't have anything going, and then when you 16 was his highest of anybody. You get nobody in the 20s, you know you're in trouble. Josh Allen, if you watched any of the Monday night game, it was just, I'm not sure what's going on in Buffalo, but that is just a shit show disaster. I'm struggling with Diggs myself. So he's just getting poor performance right now. But you feel like, the roster is what it is. It's just a loss. It's just 1 week, and it's not in his division. It doesn't cost him a playoff spot. Just move on. No big worries for Drew. Logan, the Gorton Fisherman, I feel like this was a win he needed. Coming off a tough loss, kind of teetering on that. Is the tie going to help you or hurt you? Well, when you're battling for that playoff spot, that tie is helpful because, you're matching teams in wins and you're getting the advantage of them because they have one more loss than you. And you're kind of putting yourself right in a good spot. You play me this week, so we'll see what happens there. But had a big game out of Kenneth Walker again, who, I keep watching videos and seeing stories of people writing him off, and Seattle's almost done with him, and he's a bum, and he doesn't do it every week, but man, he's still there, and he's still a force. He only had 4 guys in double figures though, and 19 from a patchwork quarterback in Baker Mayfield, so that was a good acquisition just to get through a week. You've seen what happened with some of these other teams kind of moving to a backup quarterback to get through a week, and it just doesn't work out. So great move there, and it proved to be enough to get you a win. That's all you needed. You just need to stay alive. So that's what you're doing. Good job, Logue. Better luck next time, Drew. All right, big game of the week here was TOB Committee versus Coffee Creamers. These are 2 league heavy hitters. They've been at the top of the league all year. Braden in scoring, Vanessa with the record. Then her record kind of come down a little bit while Braden kind of maintained. And this was just a huge win because it's their only meeting this year, so she gets the head-to-head. Vanessa wins 146 to 135 in a close game. It's just one of those things. Just sometimes you just get lucky, and I think that's kind of what happened this week. She had 4 20-plus guys. Bijan Robinson finally got back to looking like Bijan Robinson where he was drafted. 21 points, which, you'd like to see the high 20s, pushing 30 from a guy drafted in the first round occasionally. But I'm telling you, if you kept track of what's going on in Atlanta, he hasn't done shit for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. She was contemplating benching him, so I'm sure she's glad she didn't, and it paid off for her. And then to make matters better for her is James Conner's back, so she's looking heavy again, kind of moving towards the late part of the season, right where she needs to be. As I look across the board over at Braden and Team Coffee Creamers, he only had 2 20-plus guys, and one of them was a kicker. So your position players just weren't doing it. Big trade of the week. Taysom Hill just had to have him. Got a big 3 points out of him. But I tell you what, Amon-Ra is going to be the saving grace for this team. I feel good about his quarterback spot. They're not always going to set the world on fire, but they're not going to have points where weeks where they get 1 or 2 points either. But Amon-Ra, 30 points again. Like ever since the trade, I don't think he's went below 18. Maybe not even below 20, but he's been over 30 twice. So I think in 3 games since having him. So that's paying off huge for him. Had somewhat of a down week from Kamara. I think he had 19, and that's going to bounce back up. So Braden's going to have something to say with how this league finishes out. Just a tough loss. Doesn't really hurt him. Just kind of knocks him out of that top 2 seeds. Looking at a wild card, but anything can happen once you get to the playoffs. Everybody knows that. Congrats, baby. Nice win, Vanessa and TOB Committee. All right, bringing up the rear, you have the motorboaters, myself versus short bus driver, another battle of the brothers. Again, older brother gets the better end of the stick here. Jason just kind of put it on me. I thought I was facing him on a good week. No Jalen Waddle, no Tua. But, he made his moves, and, he had 4 guys go over 20, 40 from CeeDee Lamb. It's just like, what do you do, So there we're talking 120 points basically just in those numbers. And even Jason is continually able to withstand, happen to play Miles Sanders and him getting 3 or less points. So Jason gets 3 points from Miles Sanders again and still wins. I just don't get it. Myself, Goff, Eckler, 20 plus, that's what I need. I need Goff to continue to play at that level. I had, Travis Etienne only gets 6. I forget what Breece Hall got, but it was like 11 maybe. Those numbers being way down. Stephon Diggs, 6 points. That can't happen from an elite receiver like him. And it's just, I just can't seem to get my receivers clicking together. And my running backs, they just kind of, all 3 of them are great, but they just can't seem to be great together. So we're hoping to rebound. But my hat's off to Jason. It was a good win on a kind of a tough week for him. He passed it up nicely. And I'd say so because he was top scorer of the week too. So high scoring week for the most part, again with nobody over or under 100 except for Drew. Only 151 being the top scorer, but we had 2 or 3 in the 140s, a couple in the 130s. It was a nice, well-rounded week. So hats off to you guys that picked up wins this week. The playoffs race is tightening up. That's going to be the end of the video. Just a heads up though, I am going to try to find some time to get a pre-week video out this week where we kind of break down some of these matchups, and we're going to have some key matchups moving forward here as teams are going to start getting knocked out from playoff contention. So, look forward to that. Look forward to week 11. Hopefully I can right the ship and kind of stay in the hunt. It's going to get real sucky making all these videos for you guys while I'm just sitting on the outside looking in. So, at least right now I'm alive, hanging by a thread. Good luck to you guys next week. Mish out.